Hi, everybody. This is pretty awesome. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. I have to go on a script, so forgive me. Day is done, gone the sun. From the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest. God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and a star gems the sky, gleaming bright. From afar, drawing near, falls the night. Thanks and praise for our days, 'neath the sun, 'neath the stars, 'neath the sky. As we go, this we know, God is nigh. I wonder if anyone in this room recognizes those words. They're lyrics to a song I know we've all heard at one point or another. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to talk a lot about me for two reasons. Number one, as I tell my students, to reach the universal, you must first work through and push past the personal. And number two, I'm an actor. Talking about me is what we do best. I think a lot about sleep. And this is probably because I, like so many of you, don't get enough of it. To put it plainly, I'm a worrier. And this has always been the case. When the lights go out, my brain kicks in, and the dregs of the day float to the surface and catch. And it's in these dark and prolonged moments, devoid of outside distractions, that I turn inward and, consequently, feel most alone. I grew up in the Air Force. Every night I would be in bed, unable to sleep, fretting over whatever the hell it is the teenage boys who have nothing significant to fret over. Eventually I would run out of things to fret over, and I would go about the task of trying to get to sleep. Of course, this never worked because, as is so often the case, the harder you look for something, the less likely you are to find it. But then, inevitably, 10 o'clock would roll around, and with it, music from the loudspeakers across the street. That song, I know we've all heard, the bugle call of taps. Known for its traditional use in military funerals, the music is mournful by association. And yet, for some reason, I always found it incredibly comforting. Something about the idea of everyone on that base, all those people, all those families, sharing in the same experience together at the same time. The music is meant to inspire reflection, not of oneself, but on others, those that have come before, and those that have left. Turning my focus outward like that, away from myself, it always made me feel a little less alone, and almost without fail, I would soon slip into sleep. So last year I was working on a show at Chicago Steppenwolf Theater. It was an adaptation of the Civil War novel The March by E.L. Doctorow, as we know, a Kenyon grad. I should also mention that one of the characters in the play was none other than Edwin Stanton, another Kenyon grad. Anyhow, somehow it came up that I had been raised in the Air Force, and so the director put me in charge of all things military, everything from teaching how to give a proper salute to choreographing a ceremonial rifle routine. Long story short, there's a scene in which a group of soldiers are settling in for the night, and as they're saying their goodnights, taps begins to play in the distance. And in my research, I came across those lyrics that I read you at the beginning. Thanks and praise for our days, 'neath the sun, 'neath the stars, 'neath the sky. As we go, this we know, God is nigh. All those years, I had never even known that taps had lyrics. Now, I'm a bit of a nerd. My liberal arts education has made me a lifelong learner, and I get excited when I come across something new like this, something I've known my whole life, something I thought I knew my whole life, rendered in a whole new light. Coming from a military family, I must admit, I didn't really know what liberal arts meant. I figured it meant I was going to learn the art of being a Democrat. But it didn't take me long to learn that the essence of a liberal arts education is about learning to connect the dots. I swear to God, that wasn't planned. That was not. Connecting the dots across disciplines and across time. And of course, the more dots I collect, the more connections I'll be able to make. And the more connections I make, the clearer my picture of the world will become. A great chain of being. Now, the stats say that less than 3% of today's students decide to pursue a liberal arts education. While this might be disappointing to some, it should be surprising to none. We live in the era of the specialist. Generalists are a dying breed. Likewise, we live in the era of the individual. And as such, tradition, of which both the military and Kenyon have many, has in some circles become a bad word. The rituals that make up a tradition are seen by many as shackles, attempts to stifle what is different and new and personal. But I tend to agree with Somerset Maugham, who said, "Tradition is a guide, not a jailer. Tradition teaches us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. It reminds us of our place in that great chain of being. We receive the gift so that we might someday give the gift." Now, for most of you, these next few years will be, by necessity, the most self-centered years of your life. You've spent the last 20-some years living under other people's roofs, living by other people's rules, and minding other people's expectations. I remember it can sometimes seem as if you've spent the last 20-some years waiting for your life to begin. The irony, of course, is that a minute later, you're going to be wondering where it went. Come May, it will have been 15 years since I graduated from Kenyon, and it seems like yesterday. Shakespeare said it best in A Midsummer Night's Dream, "Brief as the lightning in the collied night, that in a spleen unfolds both heaven and earth, and ere a man hath power to say, behold, the jaws of darkness do devour it up." But for now, for you, it's nothing but open road. And it's time to take your Kenyon education for a spin, put the pedal to the metal and see what you can do. But as you take that ride, all we ask is that every now and then you take a moment to look in the rearview mirror and reflect. So I first saw Kenyon in the infamous blizzard of '93, what's now known as the superstorm of '93, one of the biggest snowstorms in the history of the United States. My mother and I had already toured a number of other colleges, and if I remember correctly, had yet to be impressed. But something was very different about this place. As we darted from building to building through the bitter cold and the heavy snow, we realized that we were actually having fun. And this was probably due in great part to the fact that our tour guide was having fun. She genuinely seemed to love what she was selling, something we hadn't found to be the case at other schools. And that love was very, very contagious. The Kenyon Inn was well appointed. The bookstore was warm and inviting. The campus was gorgeous. And everyone we met was just so damn nice. When the blizzard kept us on the hill for an extra 2 days, we weren't heartbroken. Kenyon College not only shaped my mind, it shaped my life. It has given me a network, friends, support, leads, ideas, opportunities, and above all, a sense of standards, both personal and professional, which carried me through a painful experience of a truncated postgraduate attempt that ended in frustration and disarray, which means I got kicked out. A 3-year attempt to penetrate the soulless aura of Hollywood, and other potential dead ends too numerous to mention. As I look back over the years since graduation, one thing has kept me motivated through all the chaff, clear in my purpose and in my sense of progress, the elements of my Kenyon experience. In so many situations, the mere mention of Kenyon College caused critics to hesitate and supporters to offer. "That's a good school," they'd say. And I'd say, "Yes, it is." In this way and so many more, Kenyon has truly been an alma mater, a nourishing mother. Which I suppose makes the Kenyon community a family. Now, I heard this a lot when I was a student. Kenyon is a family. I must admit, back then I thought it was nothing more than some hippy-dippy platitude. But I have since changed my mind. Now, keeping in mind the old 19th century adage that, quote, family is where they have to take you in, I now offer some highlights from my undergraduate days and nights. Number one, 5 days into my first semester, I sent an all-stew advertising myself as a masseur. Meant, I think, more as a provocation than anything. I'm pretty sure my true motivations were apparent in my decision to charge only $5 an hour. So I was happily surprised to receive a response from the captain of the ladies' swim team. Word of mouth did its job, and soon I was servicing a bevy of student bodies. And the fact that I had never taken even a minute of massage training gave a double meaning to the phrase, fake it till you make it. The following year, I founded a sketch comedy group. Now, by the end of that first year, we were producing 90-minute shows with 2 night runs, standing room only, in Ross Hall both evenings. Our popularity was such that the powers that be asked us to perform at an event for prospective students and their parents. Problem was, no one in the administration had actually seen our show. So they had no idea just how profane and offensive we could be. Citing something akin to artistic integrity, I decided we should perform my family-unfriendly sketch about an all-male, decidedly phallocentric a cappella doo-wop group called The Four Skins. What could go wrong? Number 3. I also founded a short-lived organization known as the Carnivore Club. This was in response to a group of particularly rabid vegetarians who haunted the dining halls brandishing unappetizing pictures of butchered animals. The Carnivore Club had only one meeting. We set up a number of small grills outside these vegetarians' residence halls with strategically placed fans so that the smell of cooking meat worked its way directly into their corners. I was a son of a bitch. Security was called, and they shut us down. The Carnivore Club was dead. Long live the Carnivore Club. Number 4. There was the time my friends and I somehow found our way into the attic of Weaver Cottage during a cast party. Somehow, things got a little out of hand. And somehow, we fell through the ceiling. There would be no more cast parties in Weaver College for years to come. Number 5. For 1 month, I drove the Mount Vernon shuttle. I was fired. For 2 months, I was a college tour guide. I was fired. For 5 months, I was a DJ for WKCO. I was fired. Luckily, though, after a few apologies and a promise to clean up my act, I was back on the air. 3 weeks later, I was fired. And then there's number 8, the story of my 21st birthday. A story that involves Ascension Hall, a jar of pickled pig's feet, the swimming pool, and an entire bottle of 100 proof Southern Comfort. but you have to buy me a drink before I'll tell you that. The point is, over the course of my 4 years at Kenyon, it seems I earned something of a reputation. So much so that my thesis project, a show called Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll, was seen less as a test of my talents and more a dramatic summation of my undergraduate proclivities. Despite all of this, and much, much more, here I am. Kenyon let me back in. God help us all. And they actually gave me keys to some of the buildings. If that isn't family, I don't know what is. And so tonight we want to take the opportunity to welcome you to the family, namely the Kenyon Alumni Association, a family that is more than 17,000 strong. And some of them, as you know, are here tonight. And in fact, I think we should take a moment and raise a glass in thanks to these alumni who have come back to Gambier in February to volunteer their time for the college and, most importantly, to meet you guys. This is an exciting time. Your promise is limitless, and so are your options. But there's something else I've learned. There comes a time when we stop wanting anything to be possible and start needing something to be certain. Now, this may sound defeatist, but I assure you it is not. It means that you finally started to figure out what's important. 15 years from now, when you're where I am, you're going to start connecting the dots of your own life, as I have, that you might begin to form a picture of the person you've become. And what you'll realize, as I have, is that all those dots, all those new experiences that you once thought would make you a cooler and richer and deeper, more complex, more interesting person, was nothing compared to those connections that were already there at the beginning of it all. There are very few certainties in my life. Here are just a few. I am a husband, I am a son, I am a brother, and I am a Kenyon grad. These cannot be taken away. And in each case, I am part of something bigger than myself. And that is where I find my importance. Kenyon is certain. It will be a part of you for the rest of your life. For you too, it can truly be an alma mater. But like so many other things in life, what you get out of it depends on what you put into it. Which is why I want to urge you to give back. Now, I worked with a director in Chicago who observes the traditional practice of tithing. With every show he directs, he makes a point to spend roughly 10% of his earnings on his cast and crew, usually in the way of gifts or drinks or elaborate dinner parties. He is not in any way a religious man, but he understands in a very deep and very true way that his work depends on the work of others, and his success stands on many, many shoulders. He understands that he is only a part of something much bigger than himself, understands the importance of that, which I suppose in some ways makes him more religious than most. Of course, I am not suggesting that you hand over 10% of every future paycheck to Kenyon. I mean, we'll take it if you do, right? Yeah. And if you want to send it just directly to me, then I'll make sure it gets where it needs to go. But there are, in fact, many ways to give back. Number one, you can volunteer your time for admissions by staffing college fairs or performing alumni interviews. 2, you can identify promising high schoolers and recruit. Number 3, you can join the Kenyon Career Network, be one of thousands of contacts to help future Kenyon grads locate opportunities and gain employment. Number 4, many of the major cities across America have Kenyon regional associations that are always in need of volunteers for their regional events. And Kenyon also has a number of volunteer groups like the Alumni Council, the Greek Alumni Leadership Council, and the Kenyon Fund Executive Committee, all of which play vital roles in the life of the college. And then, yes, there is the somewhat crass matter of money. We all know that money doesn't make the world go round, but it pays for the trip. Stay connected. Stay in touch. We want to hear about that postgraduate degree, that new job. Let us know your email address, your phone number, your home address. We want to invite you to all those regional events. We want to invite you to reunions and more, but we can't do that if we don't know where you are. Go to the alumni website at alumni.kenyon.edu and sign up. It's that easy. Stay connected. What gives Kenyon its strength? Why have people with whom I have interfaced been impressed when I say Kenyon College? As the years since graduation pile up, I become more and more aware of what makes Kenyon special. It's not the history, and it's not the campus. It's not a reputation built over years past. It's the one asset that underlies each of these and more, the strength of Kenyon's graduates. And just as that strength has become so evident to me individually, that strength has become evident as the foundation of everything that Kenyon stands for. Everything she represents, and everything she touches. And that strength doesn't just happen. It's not just because Kenyon's alumni exist. It's because they care. They care enough to get involved, care enough to participate, care enough to support, both at home and back here in Gambier. They care enough to share their talents, their expertise, their influence, and yes, their financial wherewithal. You may hear most about that last factor, money, over the years ahead, especially when you get fundraising phone calls at home while you're eating dinner. But it is a real and pressing need. But from what I have seen and learned, it's just as important to share who you are, and what you know on behalf of your institution when needed. It has been the willingness of Kenyon's grads to share themselves that has made such a difference over the years, sustaining and building. And it will be your willingness to follow in their footsteps over the years that continues the legacy. Keeping your current address is one thing. Keeping your heart and your head and your energies involved in support of this very special institution is another. I've learned the inescapable truth is this, and I know you will learn it too. If you feel Kenyon has contributed to you, think about ways to contribute in return. In this era of the individual, make a point to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Together, we have tremendous potential. Together, we represent a very powerful force. Together, we are Kenyon's greatest asset. The things we can do, the things we need to do, the things we are called upon to do, cannot be done by someone else. As you get ready to blaze your own unique path in the world, I ask that you hold these thoughts in your minds and hearts and make the commitment to do what you can as part of this powerful team, this very powerful family, to further the development and the well-being of those who walk Middle Path through the many years to come. And if you ever start feeling a little lonely out there in the big bad world, think of these words. Thanks and praise for our days, 'neath the sun, 'neath the stars, 'neath the sky. As we go, this we know, Kenyon is nigh. Be well and be good. Keep in touch and get some sleep. I would say make us proud, but you've already done that. And most of all, we hope to see you around the campus. Thank you.